If they wanted to teach you, they would, but they won't, so I will. If you think about immigration into the UK the same way after this video as you do now, then I will be legitimately shocked. Do you know why immigration into the UK is at record levels? Why the UK is so-called overpopulated and the national services are at breaking point? It can be pinned down to two main things. One, the war in Ukraine, and two, Brexit definitely doesn't mean Brexit.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
In 2022, the UK had 1.2 million immigrants, with just over 500,000 people leaving, meaning that there were just over 600,000 more people that came into the UK than left it. And it's true that that is the most that the UK's ever seen since records began. But the true reason why that number is so large is something that's been kept a secret from all of us. Well, not if you look, but most people can't be bothered to look through the data. But I can. And what I found will shock you. Of the 1.2 million people that came to the UK in 2022, 925,000 of them came from non-EU countries. That's 80% of all UK immigrants. Now, the Daily Mail readers amongst us might just start thinking, well, it's the refugees and the small boats coming here illegally. And as per usual, they would be wrong. Refugees only make up 6% of all immigrants and 8% of immigrants that come from non-EU countries. If you group together all of the refugees that came in 2022, you just about fill Old Trafford. And the government that we have right now would love to tell you that immigration needs to stop and it's out of control. But what they won't tell you is of the extra 287,000 non-EU immigrants that came into the UK in 2022 compared to 2021, almost half of them were from Ukraine through a scheme that they created and implemented. But that is just the surface of the hypocrisy. And that then might make you wonder, well, where did the rest of the non-EU immigrants come from? And that would be a very good question. And 39% of them were international students who in the year of 2021 to 2022 contributed 42 billion Great British pounds into the UK economy. It's not bad. And they tend to leave right after graduation because the grass is literally greener back home in most cases. I mean, I don't know a young person in the UK that isn't struggling right now. I always find it funny that people from the UK always view immigration as a negative thing and talk about what immigrants take away from the UK rather than what they add. And they definitely add a lot. But by far, the funniest thing that I found through running through all of these numbers was that the largest increase of non-EU immigrants into the UK came through work visas. Now, you might think much like me, how is it in 1 year from 2021 to 2022 has the amount of work visas for non-EU immigrants increased by 100,000? Because the government are trying to control immigration into the UK. Immigration is always their main focus come election time, and it was the fuel used to convince millions of people to vote us out of the EU. But as one door closes, another one opens. You see, the UK doesn't exist without immigrant labour. While the percentage of immigrants entering the UK from the EU dropped from 52% in 2018 to 42% in 2019, now it sits at 13%. Before Brexit, there were 100,000 more EU immigrants than immigrants from non-EU countries. Now, the number of immigrants from non-EU countries is 6 times higher than those from EU countries. Based on those figures alone, you could consider Brexit a success. But in order to keep things running in the UK as normal, the government have made foreign skilled work visa applications easier, particularly for bricklayers, plasterers, care workers and engineers. How have they done that? Simple. Firstly, they removed the cap on how many visas can be approved, so now it's unlimited. Then they reduced the skill level required to apply for a visa. And finally, they removed the requirement of UK employers to show evidence that they've even tried to fill the role in the UK first. So just to connect the dots in case you're still unsure of why we're seeing record number of immigrants into the UK, it isn't anything to do with refugees and illegal immigrants. It's because of war and the fact that the UK relies on immigrant labour. Brexit was the worst thing that could have happened to the UK and has left the government filling labour shortages. And the answer that they found is kick down the door and let everyone else in. You must be very careful what you wish for in this life because God's sense of humour is undefeated.